Every couple of years, I find myself looking on eBay for the bigger version of our tiny letterpress. We've always wondered if it would produce more predictable results than our 5.3. So I usually see the price of the bigger 8.5 model and dismiss the thought for another bunch of seasons. This summer was no different until I noticed that the most expensive one listed was in my nearest town out here in the hills. I decided I didn't have much to lose from sending the seller a nice note saying I was local and easy for them and wasn't some kind of profiteer. And remarkably, the seller replied. At least until I sent through my incredibly lowball offer that was just a fraction of his asking price. About 3 months had passed and this had all been forgotten about, until this autumn when I got a message back from the seller saying, "You can have it for your price if you come and pick it up tonight." So of course Lily and I jumped at the opportunity. The press itself was the bit that I was most interested in, and frankly we had no idea what else we were buying until we got it all home and into the light. We basically ended up buying an entire letterpressing studio.
Wow.
Oh,
It's
wow.
so much bigger than I thought. And
It's
in
amazing.
amazing condition as well.
Life inevitably ended up happening, and before I could contemplate any kind of test run, it was already time to do our Christmas cards. Of course it was hard to come up with some artwork that wasn't about the dog, so I didn't. Frisbee has a habit of climbing on logs in the woods, and I really like the image of her atop this stack of them, which I thought evoked an angel on top of a Christmas tree. I sketched the idea up with a slightly more Christmas tree shaped stack, then artworked it into a 2-coloured design, which met Lily's approval. The plates arrived a couple of days after I ordered them, as usual,
What have they done?
but they forgot to wood mount the plates for me,
Oh no.
and they also misunderstood the crop lines, so I had to fix those in the workshop before I could get pressing with them. Gladly this wasn't too hard. A bit of 18mm MDF brought it to within a couple of microns of type height, and after masking off the actual printing surfaces, a quick change to a multi-material saw blade made short work of cropping down the plates and they were ready to go. Although we never did a test run with the press, I had in the past couple of months gone through everything we bought, breaking down Mr. Holmes's old lockups and all, and ended up with loads of chases, furniture and coins. So I locked my new printing plates up into these chases and was shocked at how much easier it was than the tiny 5.3. There was only one thing we needed to buy for the press, which was a pair of new rollers. I cut up the last of the nice heavyweight paper we had for card making, and I always enjoy the excuse to put my paper cutter to work. Then I dug my printmaking supplies out of the attic, and we were pretty much ready to start printing on our new, bigger printing press. I decided the press deserved some fresh tin pan packing, and was all too happy to throw out the previous Daily Express stuff.
Oh, the Daily Express, of course.
As this press was so much bigger than our old one, I was expecting it to be a lot heavier and more steady by itself on the desk. But when I put the new rollers in, I discovered how slidey it was. Thinking fast at half speed, I decided to try ratchet strapping it down to the desk, which only kind of worked, but it did allow me to start printing. A couple of test pressings then taught me that the impression screws in the back were in desperate need of tightening. Then I was ready to mix up some ink, which Lily helped me colour match to the dog.
I think that's quite good. Wow, looks great.
It's surprisingly good.
It looks fabulous. Oh my god, the color is perfect.
Overall on this first pass, I was shocked at how much easier the printing was. But I was very aware that it was probably beginner's luck. Lily's parents ended up calling her, so they chatted while I finished this printing run. And the night ended with the clean-up. Consequently, I was doing this job with my first ever official diagnosis of COVID, and I have to say that being unable to smell made the clean-up job a lot more pleasant.
Ta-da!
The cards had the overnight to dry off before we worked on the second colour of the design. I also came up with a better idea for steadying the press, bolting it to a scrap of MDF that I could then clamp to the desk, which was a significant improvement. Mixing the right colour for the second pass was much easier this time. But what proved to be an absolute nightmare was getting the registration between the two colours right. Lily inevitably had much higher standards than me. So she ended up carefully eyeing every single card with a view to perfection. And she did a damn good job of it. This second pass felt like it took the whole day, not just because of the registration issues, but because the backplate ended up being a nightmarish fiddle as well. This was effectively no different to the faff of the smaller press, which was a pity. Considering we were doing this with the plate and not with movable type, it kept going from inconsistently inking to over-inking and shadowing with no rhyme or reason. I'd love to know what we were doing wrong. Gladly Lily conceded to my slightly lower, well, is it legible standard, as it's just the back, and we got the printing job finished. After a couple of days of hanging out to dry, the last part of the job, as usual, was to score and fold the cards. I like to make a little jig to help with this. It makes the job go pretty quickly.
I'd say that's pretty consistent.
I'm really happy with the card design. It's pretty abstract in the scheme of Christmas, but I think people will get it. The ones with perfect registration are entirely thanks to Lily and they look amazing. The ones that are within a millimetre are still perfectly legible. But even the one card that we pressed, before deciding to change the position of the print on the card, looks really cool, even though I don't think we'll be sending that one to anyone. I'm most impressed that we managed to get the cards made before December this year. We cut it a bit fine over the past few years, so hopefully our family in other continents will receive their cards before Christmas this time. But is the bigger Adana Eight-Five press worth the upgrade over the 5.3? It's less conclusive than I expected. There are some aspects that are unquestionably easier than the old press. And the first pass of printing in particular went way more easily than it could have. But then some of it was just as fiddly as it has been in the past. We'll just have to use it more to work out what we need to do differently and then draw a conclusion. Thanks for watching this video. Merry Christmas!